Are we doing enough about women's rights? Let's talk about what the federal government has done. The U.S. Department of State has addressed this issue with women's economic empowerment. This issue promotes opportunities for women economically. But is this enough? Well, the short answer is no, but let's dig deeper.
The federal government let the Violence Against Women's Act expire in 2018, and they have failed to renew it. First of all, I don't really understand why the Violence Against Women's Act has to expire every 5 years. Why should they have to renew it? Because I would think that, continuing forward, we don't want violence against women, so we should be able to enact that law and into perpetuity. But apparently, it has not been, we have not been covered by it since 2018. The House passed it in October of this year, but it is one of the many pieces of legislation that is kind of hung up in the Senate right now. And I find that frustrating.
Let's look at some statistics. This graph compares what women earn compared to every $1 a white male earns. As you can see, the average woman only earns 82% of what a white male earns. This is a map of the US and the pay gap between women and men. As you can see, the best is Washington, D.C., where women make 91% of what men earn, and the worst is Louisiana, where women make 66% of what men earn. In 2018, the estimated pay gap was 22%. Approximately one-third of the women around the world have experienced sexual violence, and over 2.7 billion women around the world don't have the same job opportunities as men.
What is the Equal Rights Amendment, Carol?
What is the Equal Rights Amendment? It is the what should be the 28th Amendment to our Constitution, which simply says that equality is for everyone in this country. You cannot discriminate based on sex, and that's all it is. A few words, that's it. Nothing controversial, just we live in a country that should provide equal rights, equal protections to all. And when the Constitution was written, women were deliberately left out. And we believe that because of that, they have been paying for discrimination in terms of rights, protections, and recourse that they need in the courts should anything happen to them.
Thank you, Chairman Nadler, Chairman Cohen, Ranking Members Johnson and Collins, and Congresswomen Spear and Maloney for your tireless work on the ERA, and to the members of the committee. I come here not as a constitutional lawyer, but as a citizen, as an American woman, to advocate for what I feel is critical for our country. I come with the goodwill and the faith that when we examine the reality of women in America today and remember the historic injustices women have faced in our country, we will all feel compelled to do what we must to ensure that women are afforded every legal right and equal protection in our country. Women have waited 232 years to be enshrined as full and equal citizens. Why? Because in 1787, women were left out of the Constitution intentionally. While the Constitution says nothing about deadlines for amendments, Congress put a deadline on the Equal Rights Amendment when it was passed in 1972. I am here to appeal to you to remove the 1982 deadline placed on Congress for the ratification of the ERA. Just because women didn't achieve full equality in America by 1978 or by 1982 doesn't mean they shouldn't have it today. There's a groundswell in this country. Women are being elected in record numbers. Women are rising up by the millions and saying they will not be sexually assaulted. They will not be paid less. They will not be treated as subhuman, and they will have their voices heard. Some people think women do have constitutional protections because of the 14th Amendment, but when asked about this, Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia said, certainly the Constitution doesn't require discrimination on the basis of sex. The question is whether it prohibits it. It doesn't. So a recent Supreme Court justice interpreted the Constitution as saying it did not prohibit discrimination on the basis of sex. So whether you agree with him or not, the fact remains This is how a recent Supreme Court justice interpreted women's rights in our Constitution. And this is why we need to amend the Constitution and leave no room to question if women have full constitutional equality, because women's protections cannot be left to interpretation alone. So let's look at the treatment of women in America today. These are present-day truths. These are not antiquated horrors we have to search for in history books. These are things that are happening to both Democratic and Republican women.